see. I think I am live. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm going to just get my camera set up a little bit. I'm having some computer issues and I'm also running late, not because I'm still getting ready like usual, but because I was live on TikTok and I just lost track of time. We were just chatting away over there on TikTok and yeah. So anyway, hi, welcome to Seeing Blind. My name is Cindy, in case you are new here. And this channel, Seeing Blind, is all about tips, tricks, hacks, discussions, and just covering life, just progress, development, improvement, all that good stuff. I'm not afraid to tackle the difficult topics, if you will. So the blind community chats are something I do every Tuesday, Thursday here on the channel around lunchtime. So you'll want to make sure the notification bell is turned on, my friends. That way you can catch the memo of when the live will start, because I can't ever say an exact time. Every day is just, every Tuesday, Thursday is just a wee bit different, you know. So the notification bell, though, will help you with that. And I think those are like kind of all my preliminary show notes. I'm not sure, but anyway, if you are with me, go ahead and send me a little something in the live chat so that I know that you're here. I hope everyone's having a beautiful, gorgeous day. It is so pretty here in Tennessee. I wish everybody could have such beautiful weather every day, and can't wait to get out in it myself with some strong sunglasses for my eyes. And yeah, so today's blind community chat, my friends, is going to be on the impact of self-deception and masking. Whether you are disabled, you have chronic illness, an impairment or something, or you know someone who is, we're going to talk about how these things play a role in our acceptance journey, in our life experiences, and just how we want to live our lives. And this has been something that I have really been reflecting on a lot the last couple of days, just in my own self-reflections and mindfulness. And it just really kind of took me down a rabbit hole, and I got so inspired. I'm like, oh my man, I need to do a blind community chat on this one, and just to kind of share my thoughts and where I'm at in this, and see if you guys resonate with this at all, if you can relate, and kind of if anything, give you some inspiration for your own kind of personal check on these topics in your life, and to see if there's anything that you can improve on and grow and push through. So that's what today's business is on. And I'm going to see who is with me in the chats. I got to get my other device set up so I can see the chats. I do this every single time. I always say, I need to get this loaded up before I go live, and then I end up running behind and just getting focused on doing the live, that I don't get all my ducks in a row. So I'm going to take this moment to get my ducks in a row while all the subscribers that have their notification bell turned on are getting their notifications and can join in. And if that's you and you haven't put anything in the chat over here, make sure you do so that I know that you are here. Tell me about y'all's weather, because I'm just so happy. It's like that first feeling of spring, you know what I mean? Like, makes me happy. Let's see, what do I need to do? So if you're watching this on the replay, thank you so much for joining. This is something that I am not a podcaster per se, but this is very much a podcast style of live stream that I do twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so you can easily just kind of tune in and then set that device down or turn your screen off, whatever the case may be, and just listen to it podcast style. You're not really going to catch anything of importance visually on mine. So I'm just used to streaming on YouTube, which is, has a video component. And because of that, that's just sort of how I go about it, my friends. I had someone tell me that I need to do a podcast. And I'm like, you know what? I got so many fingers and too many pies right now that it's kind of like I don't think I want to add to my plate and get into podcasting just yet. I don't know. Maybe if I can, grow my influence here just a bit, and if it ends up kind of worth my while, then I will in the future. All right, let's see. Okay, I've got my chat open. So if you're with me, go ahead and say hello. And oh, okay, not very many people yet. That's all right. Oh, that's why I can't hear my voiceover. I got my volume turned down. Welcome to the chat. Remember, learn more. Button. Okay. Oh, that's why I can't hear my voiceover. I got my volume turned down. Voiceover off. I gotta. Now then, I had to like pause the video. Otherwise, you'd hear like a bad delay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with my spiel and just kind of share what's going on, with me as far as this topic goes, and then see what your all's responses are. And if you're watching or listening to this on the replay, my friends, feel free to just comment away just sporadically as you listen, whatever your thoughts, whatever your experiences are, and if you can relate, all of that jazz. I would love to hear your and see your all's comments, as well as just so that you can participate in the discussion as well. And that way we can all get to know each other a little bit better and just enjoy this community. So let's first talk about what is self-deception and what is masking. Self-deception is basically like, the problem is we don't know we have a problem and we're deceiving ourselves. We are because it's easier to lie to ourselves to avoid difficult feelings, sensitivities, vulnerabilities, and we end up justifying ourselves in a lot of ways that are it's representing ourselves and the situation falsely. And so it's just our reactions and way of thinking that is not necessarily in line with the truth or what our core truth is inside. We kind of go down a rabbit hole of finding ways to justify or to blame or to make excuses for and not taking responsibility. So that's sort of what self-deception is. And a lot of the times, like I heard a great video on this topic that actually is what sort of inspired me to do some self-reflection on this. I don't know if anybody watches the YouTube channel Therapy in a Nutshell. I highly recommend it. And she just recently did a video on this topic. And so a lot of what I have to say here is going to echo a lot of what she expressed in that video. However, I'm coming at it from a totally different perspective. She was really applying it towards relationships and our own just kind of general issues and problems and people in our lives. But I actually took it, I did a lot of thinking on this from the perspective of my disability and blindness. And am I self deceiving in any way, shape, or form in my reactions, in my thought processes, in as a response to my disability? And so I'll make sure I put a link, if I can remember, I gotta write myself a note, to put this video that influenced today's conversation in the comment section down below. So if you're watching this on the replay, you might be able to find that in the description box. But it is self-deception from the YouTube channel Therapy in a Nutshell. And she highly recommended a book that I'm actually getting ready to start reading myself. Actually, two books that I was like, ooh, I need to read these two books because I really think that they could help me with my own personal growth and development and just living my best happy blind life. And so I think the books are called Leadership and Self-Deception, and I can't remember, something about peace, like quality peace, finding your peace or something like that. I can't remember. I'll have to go back and look at my notes. But anyway, that is sort of the reference for an inspiration for today's chat. But I'm coming at it, like I said, from a complete different perspective, because I think when we find ourselves disabled, or we have some sort of life event that leaves us with an impairment, a loss of something that leaves, a chronic illness, something that really kind of changes how we live and forces us into adapting and forces us into just a very difficult shift in life, in our shift in living and shift in way of thinking. And so I think a lot of us find little things that we end up in this kind of pattern of self-deception as a result of it. And, I think most oftentimes in my personal experience with self-deception, I was using my grief as an excuse. And I was using my pride and my stubbornness and all of these things that, while are very valid feelings, they're not necessarily, it's not necessarily the best approach to use them as excuses to not living life that's in line with our values, and our character and the person we want to be and the life we want to live. And so ultimately, we struggle finding our acceptance and our happiness because of these self deceptions. And it all kind of plays on this term called, which I have heard a lot of, and I'm interested in studying this more, but it's called neuroplasticity. And usually, this is basically where, like, once you kind of become habitually in a thought process and a way of responding and thinking, and you are constantly flooded with the same information, reactions, and self deceptions, you kind of create this habitual subconscious response that once your brain it's constantly forming these the patterns basically, and it can be reformed, and your brain is instinctually adaptive, but it likes patterns, it likes consistency, it likes repetitiveness. And so when you begin to crawl down these rabbit holes of self-deception and masking, next thing you know, it becomes subconscious and habitual, so much so that your brain wants to stay in that space. It wants to continuously. That's why a lot of people struggle to find their way out of depression and find their way out of alcoholism and addictions and all this stuff. It's because their brain has to break that pattern, and it's on a subconscious level, but it's called neuroplasticity. And so anyway, all this is based in science, my friend, so I mean, you can Google it. But anyway, moving on, so we're going to dive in a lot deeper into that in just a bit. Another thing, though, is masking. Masking is a little bit, I think, more well known in the disability community, but that is basically where we are hiding, and kind of like a chameleon, we are sort of kind of putting over a buffer over the disability in efforts to fit in, to avoid awkward interactions, conversations, questions, and to not feel as though we are different. To also avoid the changes in perceptions that people have of us. There's a big fear of people's perceptions and treatment of us changing when, or if they see some sort of evidence of our disability, impairment, or chronic illness. So that is what masking is. It's basically hiding it, when that's probably not the safest and healthiest response. I masked pretty much the first 25 years of my life with my disability, all through my young childhood, teens, and 20s. I masked like a pro. And it's amazing how adaptive the brain becomes, even at a subconscious level. All the little tweaks and things that we do that is a response in the situation, but we develop these kind of techniques and strategies to mask, and next thing you know, it becomes habitual, and then we are doing it, and not realizing that we're doing it. And that's sort of the patterns that I personally am starting to reflect on in my life. Like, okay, is there any way that I'm masking my disability in an unhealthy way that I'm still unaware of because it's so embedded in my subconscious and so habitual that I'm unaware of it? And so it's something that I think we can all uh, benefit from, and these little self reflections, just asking ourselves, doing a gut check, and just making sure, am I being my true authentic self here? Because if the answer is no, then really that can have a profound impact on, if you're ever asking yourself, like, why am I always in a bad mood? Why am I always irritated? Why am I so bitter and angry at the world? Why are my relationships suffering, or anything like that? These are the types of questions and reflections that I think can really kind of help trigger some of the answers, so that we can progress and grow and move towards healthier, happier lives and relationships. So that is masking. And I'm going to dive into the chat real quick just to see if anybody else has joined. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to pop those in now as we go. YouTube, video player, 12:46 p.m. Pause blind soup for the soul. Raise hand with fingers light. Oh, hey, Paul. Welcome, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me as usual. Thank you. Creations from the table. Hi, Cindy, waving hand. Hi. Oh, it's another Cindy, I believe. Hey. 12:46 p.m. Lisa B. Raise hand with video mic switch on with fingers light. Hi, Lisa B. Welcome to the chat. Remember to mark your privacy. Okay. Page 1 of 2. Thank y'all so much for joining. So let's just sort of break it down into sections. And I think I'm going to cover self-deception first. Because to me, this is really the most complicated, and it's one that I have never covered before. So I really just kind of want to verbally process through this with y'all and see what your responses and reactions are to it, and if you think that I'm onto something or not. So self-deception, a lot of the times I think, we all feel this. When you look like true to your core, there's the essence of our conscience, like our not consciousness, but conscious of like knowing what's right, what's wrong, and how, the desire for a good, happy life. And I think that's truly at the core of us all, right? But a lot of the times I really feel like our reactions and responses to being disabled, it's like all these, it gets buried, there's so many layers and so many feelings and so many reactions and so much confusion and questions left unanswered, and we get bombarded with all the negativity of it all, that we end up in this self-deceiving pattern where we begin to feel helpless, hopeless, angry at the world, bitter at able-bodied people, and all this stuff. And we end up blaming them because, oh, well, my life would be a lot easier and happier if this family member would just assist me more with transportation and not complain about it, or all those kind of things, when really, if you did some self gut checking there, you would realize that, well, there's two people contributing to the problem, not just one, and start taking responsibility for how you're contributing to some of the unhappiness and the responses and reactions to being a disabled person. I think if like I mentioned, grief was a stage that I know a lot of people find themselves stuck in for a very long period of time, especially if you lose your eyesight or any disability, whatever the loss is, whether it's a limb, a sensation, whatever, a sense, doesn't matter. It could be mental, it could be memory, it could be anything. Whatever the sense of loss is that leads to a debilitating event in your life, we all experience a grief over that. Loss is loss. And in that grief, we can try to, we find ourselves mentally going through these processes of justification, of trying to ration out, well, I don't want to get up today because I just, so and so made me feel bad, and or the world's treating me this way, and so why should I even bother, and it's like, it's those types of like blaming or causalities that we use as excuses, that and those excuses is what really is what is preventing us from trying to achieve our happiness, or the attempt of living the life we want to live, or the attempt of living in line with the value and character that we want to experience the world with. And so in my grief, and I've definitely experienced a lot of bitterness, because I got very angry that it felt like people took they took advantage of the sight they had. They took people. I remember catching myself every time I felt like that person has absolutely no idea how important the the feeling of freedom is. How awesome it must be to be able to get in your car and go whenever the hell you want. And I just remember just spiraling down into this thing of bitterness, when really, did that serve me well? No. Was I deceiving myself in that it's their fault and their lack of acknowledging their um I guess privilege of independence and ability to do so? I mean, that's it just is what it is sometimes, but it's we're deceiving ourselves and making them out to be the bad guy, when really the we're not honoring our true authentic feelings, and that in our inner truths, that we are grieving the loss, but it's not an excuse to deteriorate our relationships and bring our relationships down in our lives as a result. And so self-deception is just, it's so multifaceted, and it's why it's why you see alcoholics that don't realize that they're alcoholics, and can't admit that there's a problem. It's like, it's the problem, you don't know you have a problem. And we don't always know that we have a problem in accepting our disability, and it's like we don't know what we don't know. And it's a lot easier to judge and recognize self-deception in others than it is ourselves, because we're so good at deceiving ourselves. We're so good at rationalizing and justifying our responses of anger and bitterness, and just living in that state. And if you live in it long enough, that, like I said, neuroplasticity can kick in, and next thing you know, that's your brain will constantly want to think that way. It will want to constantly justify, rationale, blame. It will constantly want to, be defensive, to keep you in that state, because of the habitual. It craves the habitual, the repetition, the whatever, and so that's sort of a lot of the reasons and why you see so many people struggle getting out of these difficult phases of life, because it's hard digging yourself out of that ditch. Once you crawl down there and stay there long enough, your brain's gonna get used to it, and you're gonna get used to it, and that self-deception is really gonna sink in, and you're gonna kind of stay there for a while. And it's very difficult to really retrain your brain to really check yourself and your responses and reactions to people and in situations that you find your disability. It's like, because of my disability, yes, I cannot drive. But I don't want to tear my relationship with my husband down with it. I don't want to get bitter and mad at him every time he can't give me a drive or give me a ride anywhere, or anytime I feel like he doesn't feel blessed enough that he gets to just get in that car and go whenever the hell we have a fight or something like that. I mean, um, that's not the root of the problem. I am adding to the problem by justifying and blaming and continuing that thought process and spiral instead of really gut checking my response and what is my inner truth? What do I believe in? What do I how do I want to change this and make this situation better? And entertaining these things and deceiving ourselves that it's that person's fault or it's my disability's fault. It's not the disability itself. It's not the fact that I'm blind that's the problem. It's the fact that we don't live in an accessible culture, you know? I mean, and so by using that as an excuse to not try to learn something new or learn a new hobby or gain employment or just get the hell out of bed. You know, it is a form of self deception. And a lot of people may disagree with that. And if you do, that's quite okay. Again, I just encourage everyone to read this book with me. I'm going to start here pretty soon. It's called Leadership and Deception, and or just check out the little kind of footnotes version of it in the video I'll put in the description box from a channel called the what is it therapy in a nutshell, something like that, but I'll link it down below. So anyway, I'm going to check into the chats and see what are y'all's responses, and if you have any questions, like, you know, is there something, a problem area in your life, a relationship, a situation that's related to your disability that you just cannot, it's like a pattern, it's something that keeps continuously coming up, and it's just, you are mad, you're angry, but you feel like, yeah, my reactions and responses, that's not the person I want to be, or that's not the way I feel like I should react or respond, or that kind of thing. If there's any kind of situation, anything that you can relate to on that, let me know in the comments. All right, let's see. 12:57 p.m. Lisa B. Now how eating face with smiling eyes. 12:57 p.m. Lisa B. Hi Jordan. Can chat. Hey. 12:58 p.m. Lisa B. Can talk. Working. Oh, can't talk work. Hey, if you're just in listen mode, quite okay, my friends. You just listen right away. If you ever have anything that does kind of stand out to you, I would still love to hear your experiences and thoughts at the end. Maybe you can come back later, but just whatever's most convenient. No worries at all. 12:58 p.m. Pulse line soup for the soul. Hi Jordan. 1 p.m. Pulse line soup for the soul. Hi Beverly and Jordan. Hi Beverly. Hi Jordan. Welcome to the chat. Remember to guard your privacy at the bye-bye. Our community page 3 of 3. Okay. 12:58 p.m. Pulse line soup for the soul. 1 p.m. Pulse line soup for the soul. Hi Beverly and Jordan. Okay, so I think everyone's just kind of saying hi, which is welcome to the chat. Remember to guard your privacy. Page 3 of 3. No problems at all. So I know a lot of people kind of just do sort of like a live lunch kind of listen sort of thing. They're doing a working lunch, multitasking. Totally get that. I love multitasking. It's like the only way my ADHD brain, I feel like, works best is when I'm multitasking. So hey, y'all, I get y'all on that. So I'm going to dive into masking and what is just go a little bit more into substantive content on masking. So again, masking is something a lot of us feel this innate urge to do because of the whole pack mentality. We don't want to be different than others around us, and we don't want to be the oddball or cause a difficult situation, be inconvenience, or answer the difficult questions, especially when you just answered it like 8 hours ago, and you know, revisiting it is not something you want to do. And so we begin to mask. And so here is where I was really wanting to reflect on, okay, am I still doing this in a way that I'm unaware of? And my answer was yes. And so I'm really curious, you know, this is something I thought I had mastered. I thought I had no longer masked and fully accepted my disability in any and all situations, and I'm an open book about it, which is why I feel comfortable doing this YouTube channel. But I asked myself and really did a lot of self-reflection and realized why yes, I still do mask from time to time. And I came to this kind of realization, and I was like, okay, then I'm exercising some self-deception here. What I want to identify this, because I want to make sure that my life is completely authentic and that I'm living my best holistic happy life. And masking is not always well, I'm not going to say it that way, because for me personally, masking is not my answer. And I understand for some people, they still feel they need to, and that's where they're at. That's you do you, right? But me personally speaking, I don't want to mask. I'm over it. I'm done with it. It never served me well. And so it's like all or nothing for me. And so when I was looking at just my inner self and self reflection, and I answered yes, I was like, okay, when and why? So I started to really think about all the times that I can recall masking. And it's one of those things where, okay, I did it as a gut response. It was just a quick reactional thing. It wasn't anything that my brain, there was a complicated thought process about, like, I wasn't actively making the decision to do so. It was an automatic subconscious response to the situation. And so for me, I was like, okay, I still have some work there to retrain my brain in these situations and to learn, how do I want to react and respond in these situations that is in line with my true core values and the life that I want to live. So when I was looking back, my recollection was the last time was with the pizza guy. Pizza guy came to the door, and I had signed something or whatever, and I was like, "Oh, I sorry, don't have my contacts in. Can you just point to the line and hold your finger there?" And I was like, why did I lie? I don't want to be a lie. I don't want to lie. I don't even want to lie to the damn pizza man. I want to be a true, authentic. I want to live my best life, and I don't want to feel like I have to lie, whether it's out of shame, whether it's out of convenience. No, I want to steer away from that. Um, and so that's where I'm at with that. And so I'm at the point where I'm just, okay, I'm recognizing this is the situation. This is why I lied out, because I didn't feel like going into, I didn't want to create an awkward moment, and I didn't want to throw him off with any curiosities. I was wanting to quickly feed my kids and get it, just like, don't have my contacts in. Just, will you show me? So I felt like I had to, because of that, that was me justifying lying about it because of my disability. And I don't want to justify my I don't want to have to justify anything because of my disability. I need to just say, hey, I don't even have to. I started realizing, I was like, I don't need to explain why I need him to point to the line. Simply asking him to do so should be sufficient enough. And I still could potentially be avoiding the, awkward moment, or the questions, or, perceptions of him, or his perceptions of me changing, all those inner insecurities that I admittedly struggle with. But so in this instance, I was lying to justify why I needed him to point to the line where I needed to sign. And so instead of just being comfortable with the request and leaving it with that. And is it a risk that why? It's just right there and pointing, or whatever a hypothetical response might be. While that is still a risk, I need to go ahead and retrain my brain and how I would handle those situations in a way that I desire, that is going to be in line with the life that I want to live. And so it's little moments like this, guys, little moments like this, even with a stranger, that still impact our thinking, our reactions to everything else in life. Um, Sometimes it just all boils down to the little things, and making little bitty changes, like just how I interact with my pizza man, or like little things that I feel like, yeah, I can retrain. I need to just process through this, come up with some, appropriate responses and reactions that are in line with my beliefs and the character that I want to express as a strong, independent, disabled woman. Um, I just have a little bit of growth there. But once that's in place, I'm excited because I'm like, okay, that's one step closer to me being a happier, better, badder, cool, honest, and authentic woman. So, anyway, that's my thoughts on that, my friends. Of course, there are lots of other ways that I felt like, I was masking and self deceiving as well, but I just wanted to share that one example. Does anyone have any thoughts or reactions to that so far? Track position. 5 minutes 49 seconds. 1:04 p.m. Lisa B. Cindy. Sometimes call gets down when I can't drive in somewhere. I start to feel like all I'm here for is human see my person. Yes. So our sighted supporters, you know, it's okay to say no. Everyone has to say no. Sometimes we're asking at very inconvenient times. And so, but the sense of obligation butts up against with our sense of, well, they're just not prioritizing us, or um, they just don't care enough, or and it's like this, you end up both spiraling down these negative paths that just end up causing more conflict. And and it's kind of one of those things where we don't need a reason to do the right thing. And we always, asking for help or for a ride or anything like that, it's a very sensitive and vulnerable position that we're already in. And so a lot of times, instead of just acknowledging, okay, it's okay to ask for help, it's okay to say for someone to say no, and it's also okay to just say, okay, the answer is no right now. Can you let me know when a more convenient time is, or what can we do to problem solve? I need this ride. How can we create a strategy to approach this in the future? And so, sometimes I feel like we'll deceive ourselves. Like, sometimes we'll say no, or like sometimes I know my husband will do this. Like he'll say no because he can't, he's tired, or he's working, or whatever. And sometimes I get the sense that he feels bitter because of the obligation. And I feel like he wants to give me a ride, but it's like he's prioritize there's other things that are just a higher priority for him at that time. And then he begins to respond to my response of being let down, being disappointed, and the guilt that he begins to feel because of that. Again, it's just kind of like, okay, then he starts to rationalize, and then he starts to kind of justify, well, I'm saying no because I work all day and I'm not here to just be your chauffeur all day. And then next thing you know, we're irritated every single time someone asks for help, or we're irritated every time we have to ask for help. And anyway, it just ends up being very difficult situations within relationships to navigate. But a lot of the I think a lot of the contributing factors to these conflicts are little facets of these self-deceiving things, that we're deceiving ourselves in that there is an obligation. I mean, if it's your life partner, to a sense, yeah, that's kind of what you married and you signed up for, right? But this obligation that you have to do it when and where and how and on their terms at all times, no. And the fact that you had to feel guilty or anything like that, like, these are little things that we deceive ourselves. And sometimes, too, out of guilt, we'll do what's called horribilizing. I don't know if y'all have heard of horribilizing, but that's basically we're making the conflict or the situation out to be bigger than it is, because we're trying to make ourselves feel better. We're trying to justify or anything like that. And so sometimes, well, you never give me a ride, or you are never available when I need assistance, or you blah, blah, blah. And it's like those are the types of horrible, that's an example of horribilizing. And so it's another form of self deception. It's the situation in and of itself is not that bad, and no, always is not the right word either. So, anyway, not sure. Why is it every single time I go live, y'all, my doorbell rings and I'm not expecting anybody. I don't know. I don't know. It's probably a salesman. I'm like, hey, nobody's home. Can't sell me anything. But anyway, I'm going to check into the chat. Yeah. And so, if you ever feel like you're his personal assistant, just be honest and don't feel like you have to hide that feeling. That's another form of self-deception. Talk it out. Being honest and authentic and realizing where each other are without any kind of justification or rationalization. Just honor the truth of the feelings and then go from there with a strategy and solution. Because if you don't, that's when hurt and resentment and just other negative, difficult things get layered on. And next thing you know, you're not solving anything, and it just creates this perpetual, habitual pattern within the relationship. Y'all take all this as a grain of salt. This is just my life experience and opinions. I don't have, I have a background in therapy and counseling, but I am in no means currently certified as such. And so I don't want y'all to think that I'm like some know all be all. Like, take it with a grain of salt. This is just, you are more than welcome to disagree. Oh, girl, no, you don't need to shut up now. Go, hey, air it out. It's a safe place. We're all here. We all get it. Sometimes just getting, because your feelings are valid too. All the able-bodied supporters in our lives, their responses and management of our disability is every bit as valid as our own. But I know a lot of the supporters in our lives feel as though they are not allowed to feel those ways, feel those things, because you're not the one with the disability, and so you're not allowed to feel anything negatively as a response. That like all of a sudden that just makes you out to be the bad person, and that's not true at all. You are entitled to your feelings, and they are very valid, and it's something that everyone just has to communicate, strategize, and create a plan for, so that everyone's on the same page and managing it healthily, in a healthy way, so that the entire family is living their best happy life dealing and managing with a disability. Because like, I can work on my own issues all day long, but if my husband, who's also in his own way managing my disability, does not, then it really kind of not defeat it. I don't want to say it defeats the purpose of my progress, but it limits it. It inhibits it. Like, I can only go so far if my partner is not as honest with me as I am with him and myself, if that makes sense. So Lisa B, girl, you don't feel like that at all. If you have something to air, girl, air it. And if it's something that you just need to air with Paul, your partner, then there you go. Just make a mental note that, hey, we need to have family discussion, and go for it. But that's the healthy thing to do, and it's not anything you should ever feel like you need to bury or not say anything about. Yeah, sometimes we do, and we forget that it's not like those are the Bama Blind girl. Thank you for joining me, by the way. It's not like it's an all or nothing. It's not like those are the only two choices, and that's what I came to realize with the pizza man. I don't have to justify why I need him to show me where to sign or what to do or to why like if I'm ever asking for help from a stranger, I don't necessarily have to explain or disclose why I need it. I always thought I did because I felt like I had to justify it. But I don't. That's a self-deception. So there are other options. I don't want to feel like I have to resort to lying in every awkward moment. But there are times when I'm not in the mood to raise awareness or to educate my community. I've like, okay, I've been doing it on social media for 3 hours today. I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore. I have those days just like any and everybody else. And so but the result of that does not necessarily have to be that I can't still be an honest, authentic, true to myself person in those situations and react in a way that is not in line with my core values and the type of character and strong woman I want to be. So, like I said, in avoiding, trying to educate and avoiding those awkward moments, it doesn't mean that I have to lie. There's lots of other strategies and ways of approaching situations that honor, everything all the way around. But we sometimes deceive ourselves in thinking that there's only two options, or it's an all or nothing, or it's well, I just have to lie, to get my way out of it. Guilt, yes. I know a lot of the supporters in our lives struggle with guilt. We deal with grief, they deal with guilt. It's almost the like the survivors in traumas. A lot of the times they deal with the guilt of, well, why was I the survivor? Why was I chosen to live and the others died? I know a lot of people struggle with that, and it's kind of sort of, you know, I mean, I'm not comparing, that's still apples to oranges, but there's still a lot of like similar themes within those situations and contexts. And I think a lot of the supporters in our lives uh, aren't given permission enough to to understand that your feelings are valid, that you too are managing the disability every bit as much as we are, maybe in different ways because they're not living it, but they're still active members of our lives, our families. They have to pull, you have to divvy up different responsibilities differently. Communication has to be done differently. Just the entire approach to the family dynamics in life and in this culture and society is different than the average person and family. And so, because of that, you're going to have your own valid responses and reactions and feelings to managing a disability in the family. And so, I don't think we give them enough safe place and permission to air those feelings out and to acknowledge that it is okay to say no. It's okay for you to just have a shit day too because my husband's blind or like I mean my husband definitely does. He has shit days all the time because he's got to do extra things because I either broke something because I couldn't see it or because he's just got to pull extra weight because I can't drive. And our kids need this or need that or want to go here or go there, and that means I as the stay-at-home mom still can't go do that. And so yeah, I get you, girl. Expectations, yes, sir. And a lot of the times we are deceiving ourselves within those expectations. So, like, a lot of the times we have expectations and we don't even realize we have expectations until those expectations are not met. And so then we deceive ourselves in that, oh, well, our partner is just being lazy, or oh, our partner is just not doing their fair share, when really we're deceiving ourselves and not taking responsibility for our own contributions to the problem. We see that the problem is only with them and not both parties. And I really feel like it's like the self-deception there is that you you just may not have communicated well your expectations. And so while yes, you want to get mad and irritated that those expectations weren't being met, but the truth of the situation is you have to ask and gut check yourself, okay, am I being honest with myself and them? Did I truly and honestly and authentically communicate with them in a way that they understood what my expectations were? 1:17 p.m. Lisa B. Thanks, Doctor. Cindy. JK face rolling on the floor laughing. Girl, let me tell you. So I have every now and then I get a humility check because my husband is just like this close to completing his doctorate. He's getting ready to work on his dissertation for a doctorate in education, and it's like the amount of information and wealth of knowledge that he is amazes me every day. Just how much knowledge that he has and how much research that he's poured through for the last 3-4 years that he's been in doctorate school. um, the amount is staggering to me because like maybe I'm self-deceiving myself here, I don't know, but if the thought of me having to go back to school for like a degree or anything like that again, it's been so long since I've done it. I would just I don't want to self-deceive myself because I mean, could I do it? Yes, I could do it. Do I want to do it? No, I don't. That's the truth. 1:17 p.m. Lisa B. Thanks, Doctor. City. JK face rolling on the floor. 1:18 p.m. Comes in barbecue. Afternoon already face with cowboy hat. Handshake. Well, hello there, my barbecue friend. How are you doing? 1:17 p.m. Lisa B. Thanks, Doctor. City. JK face rolling on the floor. 1:18 p.m. Comes in page 5 of 5. 1:18 p.m. Comes in barbecue. Afternoon already face with cowboy hat. Handshake. Well, you are if you're just joining, my friends, so we're discussing self-deception and masking. And so, one of the downfalls and impacts that masking has is it prevents us from being authentic in situations and asking for the things we need in life. If you're hiding a disability and you need help, you can't ask for it if you're hiding it, because then you would have to admit and disclose why you might need help. Now, I just said earlier, that in a way, I just came to the like, moment of realizing that I was deceiving myself and that it had to be that way. If it's a simple, basic situation, I truly feel like you don't have to mask and you don't have to necessarily justify why you're asking for help. It's like I said earlier, it's not like a black and white scenario. But if you are truly masking, then the ability to ask for help isn't going to even be there, period. Um, you're not going to be in the position to ask for help if you're masking. If you're so deep and embedded, if your brain is so contradictory against disclosing and feeling comfortable in your skin and in the moment, and acknowledging and accepting your disability of, yep, I'm blind, so what? Or use whatever word you want to, it doesn't matter. But like if you're still so wrapped up in the insecurities and the pride and the stubbornness and you know all of the fear and anxiety, you know you can't help but to mask. And because of the neuroplasticity, when you end up living that way for year after year after year, your brain is going to want to continuously mask. You're going to want to subconsciously figure out ways of, okay, how can I still present myself as not disabled? A lot of people go to a job interview even with this type of approach and mentality, and then next thing you know, employers are blindsided. They feel deceived when you do have to disclose it. And so, masking, a lot of the times, it can also lead to very unhealthy situations. Like, for example, one time when I was in college, I was masking. I did not disclose to the group of people that I was going out with to a bar and fraternity party, something like that, or both. Hell, I can't remember. But I did not disclose specifically and especially to the males in the group my unique situation, and that, hey, just so y'all know, technically, I'm legally blind. I appear as though I see just perfectly and fine, and I may act and as though I do, but the reality is I don't. And so let me unmask with just you guys right here right now. Yeah, I did not do that. And it later that evening left me in a very unsafe situation, and that our group got split up, and I had to navigate my way by myself to this other location down the street that they had all gone to, like another party, another bar, or something. I can't remember. I just remember the group went that way, but I got distracted and was over there, and then had no idea. And someone was like, "Oh, hey, by the way, your friends are, they're over at that next bar. They wanted us to tell you." And I'm like, "Holy shit. I don't know where that is. I don't know how far to go. I can't see the signs. I don't, you know what I mean?" And so that was kind of an unsafe situation I found myself in, and it was all because I was masking. So, anyway, how y'all doing? All right, let me see. Oh, turn my voiceover off. That's why I'm like, why can't I hear my voiceover? Turned it on.
1:16, 1:18 p.m. Lisa B. High barbecue. 1:26 p.m. This old helmet. Strap on self backwards and no parts.
Okay.
Page 5 of 5. 1:29 p.m. It's George Jojo. Hey, how are you?
Hello, JoJo. Welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for popping in. We're kind of going over some heavy stuff today, talking about self deception and masking, and how they just, from the perspective of being disabled or having chronic illness or any kind of impairment, and just how that can impact our lives, our brain functioning, and the way we think, react, and respond to situation, experiences, and relationships in our lives. In a nutshell, that's kind of, we're sort of all over the place, but that's the general idea. So if anybody's got any questions thus far, go ahead and pop those in. And also, if you have any um, examples of this, of your own experiences that you think relate or fit in with this topic, I would love to hear some of your all's experiences with it, because usually I have found that in sharing experiences, that usually kind of helps jar my brain and my own recollections and my own kind of, yeah, that, okay, and it kind of just that aha moments, because sometimes my brain can only take me so far, and it just helps to kind of get a nudge from others. And by hearing y'all's responses and reactions, that kind of helps do that for me. So I would love to hear what you all think about that.
YouTube. 1:16 p.m. House line soup for the soul. Expectations are good with 99% of all comments and 1:17 p.m. Lisa B. Thanks, Doctor. Cindy. JK Face on page 5 of 5.
Oh, I did those
1:18
already.
p.m. Content barbecue. Afternoon all grading face with count. 1:26 p.m. This old helmet. Strap on spell backwards and no parts. Page 5 of 5. 1:29 p.m. It's George Jojo. Hey, how are you?
All right, I think.
1:33 p.m. House line soup for the soul. You are doing a great job.
Oh, thanks, Paul. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I am not a certified mental or health expert by any means. These are all just kind of my own self reflections and mindfulness and research and stuff, but in no way am I ever giving like advice that I'm saying you should do this or whatever the case may be. I simply just love to share food for thought and where I'm at in my own self reflections, in hopes that it helps others in their self reflections and introspections, so that we can all grow and just live a happier, healthier life together. Hey, JoJo, if you're still in the house, we still got to work out a stream, girl, um, on my channel and yours again. I'd love to get that going.
Is there George Jojo? I was never afraid to talk about my disabilities. And awareness about my illnesses.
You were never afraid of it? That's awesome. I mean, because it takes strength to do so. And I feel like a lot of people, it just takes them extra time to get to that point. I was talking earlier about how I lost my eyesight, kind of, progress. It was progressively pretty slow since the age of 5, and just all through my teens and all through my 20s, and just a slow loss. And I it left me in this constant state of grieving that loss. Uh, like anytime I had to go to the eye doctor, and oh, yep, got another notch down the chart, or another decrease in my vision, and it happened so slowly. Most of the time, I didn't realize I was getting worse when I was, until the doctor said. And then I'm not gonna lie, there was a time in my life, a good about 8-year period, I refused to even go to the doctor, because and in my self-deceiving deceptions, I told myself it wasn't convenient. I told myself, oh, I don't, my insurance probably isn't going to cover it. And I would start justifying all the reasons why I was not going to for my annual checkups. And the honest truth was, I just didn't want to hear the news, because it didn't matter anymore. I'm like, well, what difference does it make? I'm still not going to be able to drive. Still not going to be able to do all the crap I still can't do. It's not going to change anything. So why go? That, and I would continue to deceive myself by justifying that, instead of just realizing what the truth of my feelings are. Um, but that is so amazing about you, Jojo, because I know you manage multiple disabilities. You've got a lot on your plate, and you always have, and you've been in a very difficult, a very traumatizing and stressful life situations at very young ages too. And so the fact that that's how you've pulled through your life, um, fearless in that way, is amazing.
1:29 p.m. Is there Jojo? Hey, how are you?
I am good. I'm doing good. Today's a happy day. Much better than the shit show it was last week. Let me tell you. Y'all missed, if you're here and you missed last week's stream, holy cow, y'all. I was basket case, y'all. I was a mess. I was just dealing with a lot of personal relationship issues. And I need to reflect on that a bit more from the perspective of self-deception, because I think in many ways I was deceiving myself and not knowing it. And yeah, I felt like it was just a hard week. It was a hard week.
1:30 p.m. Lisa B. Hi, Jojo. 1:33 p.m. Pulse line soup for the soul. You are doing a great job. 1:33 p.m. Pulse line soup for the soul. You are doing a great. 1:34 p.m. Is there Jojo? I was never afraid to talk about my disabilities and get awareness about my illnesses. Page 6 of 6. 1:36 p.m. Never blind. Yes, indeed. I grew up masking all through school. I know how to happy looking at people when they talk, even though I can't see them.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like that's another, like, so I talked about neuroplasticity earlier, and that's just, how our brain likes consistency and repetitiveness and habitual reactions and responses to things. And so when we mask, and our brain becomes used to this as a natural instinctual reaction in response to situations, then we end up masking and not realizing it. And so, yes, to this day, if I'm meeting a stranger and I'm not completely comfortable with them or their situation, not that I'm not comfortable disclosing my disability, but just the fact that I don't know them yet, just that kind of natural, like, get to know you phase, um, I'll still, like, sometimes just catch myself focusing on where their voice is, so that I can try to force my eyes to look in that direction, as if I'm, in attempts to appear not visually impaired. I can't do that nearly as well as I used to. But yeah, in my youth, I had enough vision, and my eye muscles had not shifted my eyes enough that I could look directly at something and appear as though I actually could see it. And I still catch myself kind of habitually going back to that from time to time, unconscious, in a subconscious way, because that's the way I did. That's the way I was for so many years, and I don't have any. rationale or justification for doing so anymore. I've moved past that, but the action, the response is still there. So again, neuroplasticity, y'all, it's a real thing. I mean, that's kind of where you get the whole term, the brainwashing and such.
1:37 p.m. Recently, I mask my pain every day. I try to change my focus so I don't think about it. My brain expects the pain and I try to change my thoughts. Still waiting for my brain to change. Face rolling on the floor laughing.
Yes. Oh, Lisa B, that is so powerful. Yes.
1:37 p.m. Recently, I mask my pain every day. I try to change my focus so I don't think about it. My brain expects the pain and I try to change my thoughts. Still waiting for my brain to change. Face rolling on the floor laughing.
Yes. Yes. So she was talking about how she masks her pain. Yeah. Yeah. And pain is sometimes just at the heart of it, at the root of it. A lot of people like it's like, especially in sports, you hear people like, I hear sports, God, what are they called? Not is it sports therapists? Yeah, something like that, like physical therapy, but they're like specifically in sports medicine. Anyway, they're I've heard them preach over the years, several times, like, dude, pain is your body's natural response telling you to stop, to to take it easy. Healing needs to take place, and but that goes for physical and emotional, and emotional pain is the same way. Sometimes we'll ignore the emotional pain to push right on through in our attempts to avoid it, the sensitivity of it. And then next thing you know, and we're self-deceiving ourselves that it's even there in the first place, and then we're not honoring it, and we're not working through it, and we're not processing all the truth behind it so that we can really resolve and find healing in that.
1:37 p.m. Recently, I mask my pain every day. I try to change my focus so I don't think about it. My brain expects the pain and I try to change my thoughts. Page 77.
Okay.
1:38 p.m. Recently, maybe I'm too old and my brain plasticity is gone. Oh.
Maybe too. Hey, don't self-deceive. you know, um, I get it. Now, truly, I mean, you might be onto something because I mean, that's kind of the reason why I have absolutely no desire to go back to school because I think, well, doing that, learning now, like putting myself in that type of environment is going to be so much more difficult than it was back when I was, used to it. My brain was structured for it. I was more disciplined for that, educational academic environment. And now I just feel like, well, maybe it's just my age. Maybe I'm just too old to go back to school. And I think that's just a form of self-deception. It's not that we're too old. Yeah, you can acknowledge and be honest that it might be more difficult until that, you know, structure of the brain kind of, redeforms and you kind of get that self-discipline back in place. But everything in life is about that, of learning and growing and adapting and developing the brain functioning and thinking and processing, um, and getting it to where we need it to be so it becomes easier, if that makes sense. And age might make that harder. I know, our brains definitely get set in our ways, and it becomes more difficult to change. But the I still believe that the possibility is there.
Page 77. 1:42 p.m. Pulse blind soup for the soul. Accepting my blindness also helped me recognize the blessings in my life, especially things that helped me in my life.
Yes, accepting your blindness. Yes, Paul.
1:42 p.m. Pulse blind soup for the soul. Accepting my blindness also helped me recognize the blessings in my life, especially things that helped me in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, because it is so complicated. Accepting your disability, it's so multifaceted. And I thought, like, yep, I accepted it. I'm good. I'm good to go. Got my white cane, have no problem with it. And then I had no idea, no, wait, still got some growth here, and still got some growth there, and still have some, brain training here. And I need to still process through this difficult emotion that was spontaneously brought up by some random experience or situation, and it's like, it's funny. The saying they say, you never stop learning. It's true. I feel like it also goes towards disability. You never stop accepting. It's a constant, endless effort because life is always presenting new challenges, new situations, new experiences, and there might be something that triggers an issue that you thought you were way past and beyond, that wasn't an issue, for 15 years, but then all of a sudden it comes knocking at your door and knocks you on your butt. And all of a sudden you're in this difficult journey of acceptance again. So I feel like I thought it was just something like a box I ticked off, and it's the complete opposite, at least in my experience. It's something that is I'm never done. I'm never done working and learning and growing towards a deeper level of acceptance. I think that goes really towards
1:38 p.m.
all
Resume.
things
Page
in
one.
life.
Neuroplasticity is gone. Go. Page 7 of 7. 1:45 p.m. Resume. Yes. Ongoing process.
Yes, ongoing process. It is. And I think a lot of people think that, oh, well, what do I need to do to accept my disability? As if there's like an instruction list, like a bullet point thing. They just need to go down the list, and then once they've completed all, okay, I've accepted. I'm a happy person now. Check, 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 check. And nothing in life of worth and value that leads to your true, authentic, happy, best life and self is ever that simple. It's never that simple. It's like it's the road less traveled, my friends. It's the hard path taken. You got to walk down it to get to the good stuff.
Page 7 of 7.
And I think that's, and I want to leave you guys with this thought. I think in realizing all the little self-deceptions and that when we think on that and recognize, little areas that we're, justifying, or we're rationalizing, or we're blaming, or we're avoiding, denying, all those little self deceptions that we do and masking, all of those really kind of prevent us from growing and moving forward. And so hopefully, if this motivates or just kind of leads to any kind of just self introspection on your all's part, I really hope it inspires you to just tackle one little thing, just one little change that takes you a little bit farther down that path, towards where you want to be and the life you want to live. And hopefully, I want this to ultimately be a motivator and something to inspire you in your own self reflections of like, okay, here's a little thing that I do. It's not serving me well. It's not working. It's leading to further conflict. Nothing's getting resolved. This thing keeps popping up over and over and over, or I keep feeling this guilt. I keep feeling this negative thing. And so hopefully, by identifying and realizing what the core truth is, and taking all that baggage out of the situation, just dial down as deep as you can to the core truth. Hopefully, my friends, this will give you a motivation to just take those little baby steps into making little tweaks here and there and realigning your thinking with where you want to be and what you want your reactions to be. And then yeah, it'll inspire you to make those little changes. So it's just baby steps, my friends. It didn't happen overnight, right? So thank y'all so much for joining me for today's live lunch blind community chat. I really appreciate y'all stopping by, listening to my chit chats, and I loved hearing your all's stories and perceptions and experiences as well. If you're watching on the replay, please comment yours down below, and I look forward to hearing from you. I still have to catch up on the last 2 weeks worth of comments, so I'm going to go get to that here shortly, and I'll catch y'all in the next live stream. Blessings to you and yours.